Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of LunarCRUSH Live. We've got a great show for you today on this beautiful fall morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world, with Richard Ells from Electroneum. So before we get to that, also want to just a disclaimer to everyone, because we keep getting asked. We do not charge for the show. This is just us bringing on people in the community that we think are fun, interesting, different, and are working their butts off to better the industry. So with that, John, go ahead through Electroneum.
Sounds great. Thanks, Joe, and welcome everyone. I'll also say, we're streaming onto Twitter, Facebook, Periscope, YouTube, Theta TV. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, and you'll be notified of all of our upcoming shows when those come out. Because we're talking to 1 to 2 different crypto projects every week. So lots of great stuff going on. So real quick, I'm going to go over what we're seeing with Electroneum. I want to just focus on the last year of activity. So over the last year, the price of Electroneum is up 42.48%. We're having a really nice move today. On a 24-hour basis, it's up 22.88% today. So congrats to everyone that's in. And I'll go over some of the social metrics. And this is, in fact, even in the chat, we're seeing some questions. What's different about LunarCRUSH? Well, we have social metrics that you're probably not going to see anywhere else. So we'll talk more about that later. But quickly, social volume, it's up 42.8% over the last year. It's varied widely, of course. A lot of it kind of has varied with price quite a bit. But what we're seeing is just over the last year, there's been over 200,000 posts that we've collected. And what that means is that we're looking for whenever someone in a social post across Twitter, Reddit, YouTube, Medium, lots of other sites, says Electroneum or uses the ticker ETN or any variants of that, we capture those posts, and that's a post volume. And so, for example, today, 586, that was yesterday, I'm sorry. So 586 posts yesterday. Then we go deeper into those posts, and this is actually really exciting. So we see that social engagement is up 135.1% over the last year, and that includes 283.3 million engagements. And you can see very obviously that what we're seeing is increased engagement. So the community is definitely talking more about Electroneum. And what this really means is, as there's an Electroneum post, are there retweets? Are there comments? Is like on Reddit, are there upvotes? Are there comments on Reddit as well? So we're looking for all of that depth. And so the fact that there's depth means that the community is actively participating in discussions. So that's a very big deal. That's actually a really excellent thing to look at right there. Then let's look at the number of individuals. So kind of hard to tell, but up 155% over the last year. We had a big spike here up to 3,419 in one day. So there was something hot that happened that day. And so it's sort of skewing off the rest, but just know that it's up 155%. So contributors, what this is individuals that are actually posting. And when we look at individuals, let's pick on some of those individuals. So over the last year, the most influential individuals that have posted about Electroneum. And what we mean by influential, this is not our subjective calculation. This is real time and objectively calculated based upon really 3 factors. One is engagement. So how much engagement are the posts that this individual is posting getting? How much activity does that individual have? And then how much popularity does that user account have? So we take all 3 of these things, and then we look at them over various timeframes. So you might be influential one day, but it takes a lot of activity and effort over a year to be influential over a year's time. So what we see is, obviously, Electroneum's number 1. So great work there, Electroneum marketing team, social media management, whoever that may be, really good work. Scott Melker, because he's hard to beat, and he's number 2. We've got Mr. Crypto CZ coming in at number 3. We've got Ollie at number 4. Dr. Shepard, we saw some of his sharing of this live stream yesterday. Crypto Bull.
I like that graphic.
Yeah, that is actually pretty cool. All the polygons and all that. It's nice. Plankton TN, we've seen him. I think, did Plankton win a t-shirt a while back?
I think he did win a t-shirt.
I feel like he won a t-shirt. He might have won one of our $100 giveaways even a while back. Charlie Shrem, also hard to beat. That's cool. Electroneum Uganda. And then there we are at number 10. And the reason we're probably number 10, we didn't put ourselves in there, promise. is that we've posted quite a few times over the last year because we've seen some pretty big moves with some of the social activity. So with that, let's continue with our discussion. Bring our guests. Sure.
Great stuff. Richard,
hi guys, how
welcome,
are you?
Sir. Good. Hopefully you enjoyed us going through all those stats
Yeah.
right there.
I mean, it's crazy. You look back. In one way, the year went like a blink of an eye, but it's been such a crazy year around the world. I think we've all just knuckled down and got with it. It's nice to see that there's that level of interest and volume of people. So it's exciting times. We're always living in exciting times in crypto.
Yeah, heck of a last couple of weeks kind of going through this, just to kind of keep it current. I'd love to hear what the last couple of weeks have been like for you guys over at Electroneum.
Yeah, well, it's good. I mean, the project is funded off the back of BTC and Ethereum. So any price positivity in that direction is always welcome. We've got, we've just knuckled down and made the product into something that works. And I think that's what really separates us out. Most projects seem to be based around an awful lot of trading and that speculative side, and we definitely see that. And I'm never allowed to comment too much on the speculative side, but it's absolutely critical to the project as well that takes place at the same time to give underlying value to what we do, which is this consumptive use. It's all about getting real users actually transferring and buying things. So it's been a crazy couple of years, but it's also been the last couple of weeks has been really positive. The whole mood of the whole industry seems to be changing and pulling us out of this COVID swamp that we've been in.
Yeah, COVID swamp. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, and I definitely have seen the adoption and the real world use cases, especially kind of in the developing countries, which I think is awesome. But kind of before we get to that stuff, I want to learn a little bit about you and your background. It's like I did a little bit of research. It sounds like you have somewhat of a similar background coming from media or ad agencies as John and myself. So I'd love to hear kind of what your career has been like to kind of get to where you are today.
Yeah, well, I've got a digital agency that's still going strong, which we started in 1996. So many years ago. And then whilst we had got that with a relatively large team, we'd got some coders that we went off and we wrote a social media management platform which called Retortal, which you wouldn't have heard of that product. It doesn't sell directly to the end users. It sells to people like we've got Unilever as a client, and Avon, Herbalife you may have heard of, Forever Living, Mary Kay Cosmetics. Those kind of multi-level marketing companies, and it kind of protects their brand. So it protects them from people saying the wrong thing. Looks at every image, looks at every post that goes on social, make sure that people aren't saying the wrong thing. So we had a pretty big team built around that, and that was what I was working on whilst being really into crypto myself, just personal. And of course, all these tech guys at the office, I was dragging them into the crypto rabbit hole, as I'm sure you've done with everybody around you. You know what it's like. Once you're down there, you have to put everybody else down. So we got right into the crypto thing and realized that we wanted to do something in that space ourselves to promote crypto adoption, in a really big way.
Yeah, and it seems like, that background and kind of where we came from, finding crypto pretty early on, 2013, 2015, it was, there were no marketers in the room. There was like one lawyer, one hedge fund manager, and like maybe a marketer was there. We would see these presentations of these like bonding curves and a bunch of math up on the presentation. And we were like, we got it. And we were like, wow, this is going to be huge. And it's missing, the experience and the design side of it. So what, did you see that same kind of thing when you came in, and has that been your focus, is, making it simple for people? Yeah.
I mean, for sure. I mean, when you probably would have been the same. I mean, in the early days, I don't think anybody outside of the Linux community was using crypto. I think you virtually, all the command line stuff, we were compiling it ourselves on the, so on the command line. But I find it hard to believe that there were, back 2013, I doubt there were any Windows users, maybe the odd one here or there, but very few, I suspect. Highly technical process. Everybody that I knew that was right into it was building mining rigs and and monkeying around with very technical stuff, which is kind of what made me think, you know what, if this was just so easy to use that everybody could use it from an app, then people would use it. And there were one or two experiments going on towards giving access to wallets. There were some custodial wallets and things that were heading down the app route, especially on Android. Occasionally jailbroken Android, but we wanted to sort of be a bit more mainstream than that and try and get some way of getting this massive distribution event, which we felt that Bitcoin lacked. Bitcoin, don't get me wrong, I'm not slagging off Bitcoin. I love Bitcoin, of course, but what it did is it dribbled out and then it worked through word of mouth and very slowly, took off. I mean, don't get me wrong, when you've got geometric spread, it goes pretty fast, but it did take many years to get there, and we were playing catch up. We desperately had to get out to millions of people much faster. We couldn't rely on this very slow trickle that we'd seen in other projects before. So we had a sort of massive distribution event take place, which we called mobile mining. So it's a mobile mining. It was like a simulator of mining. So you were given some ETN just for participating. In fact, there was a little bit of furore when we switched it off, but it had to be switched off at some stage. We had to say, right, you know what, we've got a massive audience now. Let's get on with the next stage of the project, which is getting it being used consumptively so that people are buying things with it, earning it. And we've got a lot of people now, we've got 13,000 people plus that can earn ETN directly through Anytask, our freelance platform. And I'm sure we'll be seeing tens of thousands more in the next year.
Where geographically are you seeing that adoption?
Literally, I mean, all over the world is the answer. The guys at the office will give you exact stats, which you'll be welcome to publish. But Brazil was the first place we saw a real hotspot without a single bit of promotion by us. So that was a real sort of viral, to use that word, viral growth. We don't know really what caused it, other than the fact, of course, the whole of the South American continent has been suffering somewhat with inflation. So any crypto projects, sometimes you hear people in the Western press lamenting cryptos, going, "Oh, they're so wildly fluctuating. How can anybody think that they're going to be a store of value?" And then at the same time, you see people all over the world, in the developing world, whose fiat currencies fluctuate more than crypto does. So I think, and normally not in the right direction either. So, I think we started seeing adoption there, and we also, we made a real effort to create an ability to buy airtime there. When we first set off, we were desperate to try and find an airtime agreement with somebody. We set off in South Africa actually with the very, very first airtime agreement, enabling people to buy airtime and data. We were the first people to ever do a full partnership with an MNO, a full-size mobile network operator, which was in Cambodia. And now, literally today, actually, I don't know if people are looking on our social, you'll see we're going live today with another 20 networks. So that takes us up to 162 countries, I think it is now, that we're covered with airtime and data, and 500 and some odd, 540 mobile operators. It's crazy how much that's happened. So that's been good. And today also launched another electricity top up. So you can top up directly your electricity in Guinea-Bissau. So a lot of people will have to do some Googling of that. But this is the nature of the developing world. This is where crypto will take off in real day-to-day use. Because it's not going to take off in New York. People aren't going to be buying things on the street with crypto in New York because they've got Apple Pay, they've got a Visa card, they've got a MasterCard, they've got so many other ways to do it. You're going to have to try and convince them to give that technology up. So the only people in New York that are going to start buying things with Bitcoin are the ones that are really, really into crypto, like you and I. We might make the effort, but actually these guys have no other digital way to pay. This is the very first time in that country that anybody has digitally topped up their electricity meter, and they're doing it with Electroneum. So people think, oh, it's distant and far away, but they're the guys. All those countries are where they're going to skip Visa, fiat, the whole banking system. They can skip it. They can jump straight into crypto. And Electroneum is positioning ourselves there to be the one. But all crypto is good for these developing countries for sure.
Cool. I've got a question follow up on that one with, like we're a startup ourselves and small teams. Some of the hardest time that we have doing is focus, right? And doing less. Are you guys focusing on one country per se? And you're saying, we're going to try and get to a certain critical mass of usage in this country before we even look somewhere else? Or is it such that the audience is so big and that, like for us, there are 200 countries where we're getting these hits from, and it's like, well, which language do we localize to next? So how do you guys make those decisions and think about that as an organization?
Yeah, I mean, it is difficult. The localization and the language thing, certainly we had to almost pluck it out of the air to start with. That was quite tricky because you have to do it in advance, really, before anybody can start adopting. And I think we've got maybe 25 odd languages in the app that it works in. But then to answer your next question, I think we've tried it, and certainly we had some very good advice some time ago from somebody who doesn't work with us anymore actually, but a great guy that talked about lighting these little fires, and he was saying if you light a little fire, you can start some consumptive use somewhere, and then you can move on, and he'd seen it before in products that he had worked with, including I think even Uber, where Uber has done the same thing. They've set up in small places and then moved on to be the massive thing that they are. The slight difficulty with that, because we have tried it a couple of times, where you focus, you get your laser focus on and say, right, yeah, okay, well, let's arbitrarily or for whatever reason pick some places, and then we'll focus on them. But sometimes it bites you in the backside. So we've had a couple of projects where the legislation in those countries has gone crypto sour and left us sort of high and dry, sometimes with boots on the ground. And we've also had situations where no matter what we did, we couldn't get, let's say, the MNO, the mobile network operator, over the line, or we couldn't get a payment provision, some sort of fiat off-ramp off the ground. We couldn't, whatever it was that we were trying to go, couldn't get it off there. So what we found is that if you have this sort of slightly more scattergun approach of you let the market decide, and then you see some excitement in a place and you say, right, what have we got going on over there? Then actually you find it's easier to find the deals. Bear in mind, it's not that easy to find the deals in crypto land, even though you've got the whole world to deal with. Crypto is still slightly frowned upon by the powers that be, by establishment. So what we've done is we've gone, right, okay, well, what influencers can we find, for instance? Not necessarily crypto influence, but so for instance, if we're talking about promoting Anytask.com, we'd say, right, what influencers can we find? And then we've got the world to look at, and then as we find them, suddenly we get these hot spots of activity. So we've got influencers in Uganda and Nigeria and Bangladesh and India, and then as they go live, we just see this massive influx of traffic back into Electroneum. So now, because when we switch that massive distribution off, so when we switch mobile mining off, our user count just flatlined for a while. And I think everybody went, that's the end of that. And we went, no, you're missing the point. We've got a big distribution. We've got a big brand. We've got a name now. We can go off. We can establish these partnerships. You just need to now watch it come round. And that ship has turned, because when those influencers are out there, we saw one guy put a little post out in Bangladesh. We had 7,000 new app installs that week from Bangladesh. So that is 7,000 new people exposed to Electroneum, 7,000 new people exposed to Anytask, all in a week, just off one time.
Can you explain Anytask for everyone?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. So we built Electroneum first with this kind of, you would have heard the mantra before in the movies, build it and they will come. And so we built it, and it was great. We got users on there by giving away Electroneum, and we built some partnerships for people to be able to use that Electroneum, and we were giving away Electroneum and they were buying airtime. It can't last forever. You can't just keep giving someone something. It has to be self-sustaining. Now, in most crypto projects, albeit most crypto projects don't really actually get consumed at all, but in other crypto projects, should we say, people go to an exchange to buy some of them to use them consumptively. So if we picked a very well-designed pure utility project. Let's say Orchid, with Orchid tokens. It's all been done very, very smartly, very, very nicely. You can go and buy some Orchid tokens from any of the major exchanges, and you can utilize them within the network. Well, we're dealing with the unbacked. They haven't got a bank account. They haven't got an exchange account. They can't go to anywhere and buy some Electroneum because they have no facility to do that. So we decided that the first thing we should do is partner up with some of the big freelance sites. So we went out to them all. A couple of them we got relatively far with them, but they're banking partners. They're terrified of losing their banking, and crypto is still frowned upon by the banking industry. So we never got any of them over the line. Probably a year of negotiating, didn't get any of them over the line. Dreadfully disappointed. We sat around as a team and went, how hard can this be? Let's build one. It was a lot harder than we expected. It took a lot longer than we expected. A lot of grey hair turned out, pulled a bit of it out, gnawed myself, ground my teeth down. It was a frustrating exercise actually. But what came out the other end was Anytask.com. So it's a freelance site, but it's powered by, the engine of the thing is powered by Electroneum. So it's still got fiat money going in. So your digital agency in New York doesn't need to go to an exchange and fiddle around buying crypto. They just get their credit card out and buy, just like they would off Upwork, just like they would off freelancer.com or Fiverr. But at the back end, the guy who's sitting in Bangladesh or in Nigeria, he does the work, and what he gets delivered much, much faster than any other platform, like 40 minutes later or something, he gets paid out in Electroneum. And we've already created his use cases for that. So we guarantee that he'll be able to at least buy airtime and data for himself, for his family, for his friends, so he can off-ramp to them. Bear in mind, he could say, well, I'll give you a couple of dollars of airtime, a couple of dollars, so he can collect some physical cash. But at the same time, we've got other places where there are the electricity top-ups and other fiat off-ramps to enable these people to actually make use of their earnings. So we've effectively, Anytask is a freelance platform. It's by far and above the most successful freelance platform that's ever been powered by crypto. Go and have a look at it. I think right now there's maybe 26,000 tasks listed on there. It's gone fantastically well. It's really, really busy. And we start advertising. Hopefully you'll see it. We start advertising. Touch wood. We've got a couple of adverts coming online on the 28th of December this year, hopefully to catch that first week of 2021. Certainly they'll be live January 2021 if they're not live on the 28th, but we are aiming for the 28th. Very cool.
Yeah, it seems like with different projects, there's grants, there's incentives, for people to build on top of what they're doing. And sometimes, like we talked to other projects, we're like, well, are you trying to kind of steer people a little bit to potentially create something that might help the network? And, they want everything just to be wide open. But for you guys, it seems like you're creating a product on top of what you're doing to kind of drive that adoption. And it's a use case for yourself to now where you can go to other people and say, well, here's how we kind of built on top of it. And so what does it look like with Anytask? I mean, are they taking their Electroneum after they do this task? Do you guys have a way where they can say, here's where I can go spend it next? Is this other point of sale places where people are using this, or is it more people for paying, for Amazon type, deliveries? Like where are people spending it?
Yeah, well, outside of the major economies, I'm not too sure that Amazon's in South Africa actually, but
delivery services kind of is what I was thinking.
But when some and some, nearly everything is not delivery in the developing world. A lot of the things that we come to expect isn't quite the same, But what we have got is I'm not too sure it's live today actually, but within the next few days, hopefully, we've got construction materials you can buy, food, we've got medicines you can buy, all sorts of things, but you tend to go and pick them up. So you go to a shop, there's 700 odd stores that are imminently live where you can buy these things and you physically turn up to get them. So you pay with ETN from the app. There's a little shopping cart in there. I'm not too sure. I'm probably saying this is going live imminently. I think it's going. I thought it was going to go live today actually, but I think maybe it goes live on Friday or something. But what we've got there is this ability to buy tons and tons of things with ETN, and so we do see lots of that. And the people one thing that we've got that's never really, I don't think it's ever been seen before in crypto particularly, is the data analysis of how savvy people are of the price when they're nothing to do with exchanges. So, the three of us will be very used to being logged onto a crypto exchange. A candle chart is you're not a stranger to a candle chart. We're very familiar with that format. But if you also imagine taking your grandmother and sticking her in front of the candle chart, she's gonna melt. Well, maybe she's not. Maybe she's an Uber trader. So forgive me if I'm offending grandma. but you get the idea that it's quite an overwhelming lot of data to take in. Do I place a limit order? Do I place a market order? What's the difference? How do I? It's a bit of a mind-blowing thing. So you would think that they're the people that are going to be price conscious. But interestingly, when we see our price take an uptick, like right now, funnily enough, you were saying that the price has upticked, what we will see on the back of that is we'll see a lot of mobile top-ups. So these people are topping up. They won't necessarily just be topping up themselves. They'll be topping up their brother-in-law and their families, and they'll be collecting in some dollars. And what they're doing is they're actually creating a sort of an entrepreneurial environment where they are maximizing their profitability by looking at the speculative price, but it's actually affecting them in a non-speculative way. It's a sort of a weird thing that, like I said, I just don't think has happened perhaps anywhere else in crypto land. I'm not sure if I answered the question.
No, you did. You did for sure. I was just kind of thinking through. There's proof of work, there's proof of stake, and then for you guys, is it proof of responsibility? Is that right? Is that what you guys came up with?
Yeah, we coined that phrase because we were neither of the other two, and we've got some more developments coming in blockchain in 2021 as well, which is quite exciting. In fact, we've got quite a few things going on in blockchain, which are not yet fit for public consumption, but they are quite exciting. But we had two issues, or a few issues, I should say, with the proof of work model that we had. One of the problems was that we had at least 300,000, perhaps as many as 500,000 ASICs mining Electroneum. And that doesn't sound like a bad thing to you guys. You're like, okay, well, that's great distribution and amazing hashing power. But the problem that we had is we had too much concentration and too much power in the pools. And I see this in Bitcoin as well. I try to explain it to people. They don't all quite get it. But in the olden days, you guys have been in long enough to have seen this. Before the pools, everybody mined themselves. So you were directly getting hold of the difficulty was with you. You were trying to actually solve that algorithm and build the block template and submit it yourself. Then the pools came along because you were pretty unlikely to manage to mine a block. So someone came along very clever and went, let's create a pool. And now people can mine in the pool. So their hashing power hits the pool. But the only person filling in the block template is the pool. So actually, when you look at Bitcoin, it's got massive distribution of miners, but none of them are actually mining Bitcoin. They're providing hashing power to the pool. The pool is mining the Bitcoin. So you rely on the fact that someone keeps an eye on who's got the most hashing power. And if a pool starts to get too much hashing power, the miners have to say, well, let's take it away from that pool and put it somewhere else. Now, what we had is far too much hashing power going through one or two pools. At one point, we had 70% of our hashing power hitting a pool. That pool, rather unfairly, said to us they wanted us to increase our mining fees. And they had us over a barrel somewhat, said, increase your mining fees. We want to see more money coming our way. And we said, well, we're a micro-payment ecosystem. We don't really want to increase those. The point of us is that it's almost free to transfer. We don't want to increase them. So they actually tried to punish us by mining empty blocks for a while. Now, that is not being part of a community. That is bad behavior. And so we didn't like that. So we were burning tons of electricity, vast quantities to keep our blockchain running. And we had people trying to exercise authority over the blockchain. Indeed, the proof of work protocol enabled them to do that because of their hashing power. So it was all quite scary. So we said, hang on a minute, there must be another way. And because we've been working with NGOs on the ground, we've got a great guy on board who was the ex-CEO of UNICEF, David Bull. And we're working with him, and we're working with some great projects on the ground. we're not a charity, but we do see that the developing world is where crypto is going to take off. So we've been working quite closely with organizations on the ground. We said, well, hold on, can't we get them to run the validators? A bit like Ripple. Ripple gets universities to run validators, and they run them for no block reward, I might add. But we said, well, if we gave some block reward, a far reduced block reward to what we're giving out to the people mining, have a massively reduced block reward, but give a block reward out to validators that are running a simple validator, does low-powered machine, because it's not having to compete with other people. And then they can use that ETN within their own projects. And if you Google it around and have a look, you'll see some of these have come forward. We've only got a dozen of them, but some of them have come forward publicly to say, oh yeah, we're doing this. And it's been quite good. And we've got a layer in there. It's all sorts of tech. I won't bore you with it, but we've got a layer called the moderator layer. And that moderator layer also says, because we had to think about things like, what if the NGO went rogue? It's not very likely. More likely, what if the NGO gets hacked? Much more likely. Okay, what if they get hacked? Something nasty could happen. Well, actually, with one NGO, no, it couldn't. What if they hack multiple NGOs? Now it could. So we have a moderator layer that can actually shut these things down. So it can shut validators down if they go rogue. It's been running for more than a year. Never seen anything untoward happen, but it sits there and making us all feel like we can sleep better at night. So that was proof of responsibility in a nutshell.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I mean, similar to like a VeChain proof of authority, where they're going to someone like a Deloitte or, a KPMG, and they're kind of sitting a validator inside of them. And then they're working more in like logistics, very different than what you guys are doing. But it seems to, even though there is a centralized manner to it, it's really not, I actually really like the university model. I didn't even know that they were doing that, because it's like, like there are probably blockchain oriented programs in some of these universities, and they're just kind of passing the torch on to the next level. So I think it's really interesting. I do want to pop this into the chat real quick. I forgot to mention that you guys have the competition that you're running for everyone that's in the chat. They're giving away 5,000 USD in ETN. 100 lucky winners will each receive $50 worth of ETN. So make sure you get in there.
There you go. That sounds quite exciting.
Yeah.
The marketing department are putting all the stops out.
I'd love to chat about marketing a little bit. And speaking of which, I'm pretty impressed with the engagement today. We're seeing in the chat, and we have looks like 204. We're bouncing around 200-ish. If we can get to 300, we'll give away a T-shirt today, a LunarCRUSH T-shirt. So go out and share the link to this stream, and we'll see if we get to 300, and we'll give away a shirt.
Fantastic. There you go. Super.
And on that note, tell us about your marketing strategies. What are you guys doing, and what's working?
Yeah, well, we've tried for Electroneum, the pure project. What we were trying to do, we're trying to find people to adopt it, because what we want is we want the project to succeed on the basis that it works, not the project to succeed on the basis that we all sit around, nobody consumes it, nobody uses it, it doesn't actually do anything, but the price goes up. And I think that there's an awful lot of people that hate me for that, because all they want me to do really is take $1 million of the ICO funds and buy ETN, right? And I know there's a lot of projects that did it. Now, one, that's probably a crime, and I won't do it. But more importantly, I think we'll smash that price, right? Because we will deliver the actual real holy grail, already are delivering actually with Anytask, the holy grail of actual crypto use. And then the price comes with itself, and we're not manipulating it. It just happens because actually there will be a demand for it. So in terms of advertising, we tried lots of advertising specifically for the product to just try and drive in new people to use it. But interestingly, we tried all the things like banner advertising and things in the places you'd expect, but that didn't bring us on crypto partnerships. It didn't bring us on anything that would grow the project. Just a great way to burn through a load of cash to make yourselves feel better about having got your brand on a CoinMarketCap or what have you. We didn't actually go on there, but we were on CoinGecko and a few others. So we tried that. We tried all sorts of other things, Google AdWords and Facebook. None of them within the crypto space, I have to say, gives anything like a return on investment in my opinion. Now, that's not strictly true for Anytask. Now, with Anytask, we've got an actual product that's powered by ETN. Every single dollar that gets used in Anytask gets converted into ETN from the open market. It's not coming out of ETN, out of Electroneum somehow. it comes off the open market. So if somebody goes in, buys a $50 task, $50 of ETN will need to have been bought off the open market. Of course, it's not bought then and there. It's bought in pools, bought in blocks. But it does mean 200,000, 300,000, $500,000 a month of trade going through that will be 200,000, 300,000, $500,000 of ETN being bought off exchanges. So it's just going to be the example of how a project in the real world moves forwards with actual consumptive use. So we're really excited about it, and I genuinely think we've smashed it. And Anytask is what's opened the doors. We're working on a whole load of projects that are not ready yet to be announced, but everybody has had their eyes opened to what crypto can be by Anytask, because they can go on there and they can be overwhelmed by the choice of things that are available, and they can see the real people. They can buy it, and hours later they've got a result, and Electroneum is done. So we, like I said, we've got a TV ad. In fact, we've got 2 TV ads because we weren't sure about timing, and we were fairly desperate to get them live. So we've got 2 agencies working on 2 slightly different TV ads that go live for Anytask. And we've got Electroneum on that ad as well, I might add. So both brands will be being promoted on TV in the United States in the new year. But what's interesting about it is the success of it is not reliant on anything to do with people going to exchanges. The success of it will be Fiverr advertised on the TV, Upwork advertised on the TV. So all we're doing is we're jumping onto this brilliant freelancer system. But that's what we've got. We've got our system. If you go and have a look at some of the testimonials about it, we're cheaper than every other platform because people can be, because they're working more remotely perhaps than most people on those other platforms. And people are sitting, it tells you who's online. You can literally go and pick somebody who's online right now and get really fast delivery. So people are loving the platform. And I think that as we start to grow it and start seeing really large amounts of turnover, bearing in mind, you can see Fiverr's turnover is listed. They're in New York. They're on the New York Stock Exchange. I think they did over 100 million of turnover last year. So if we were to do, a fraction of that, $2-3 million of revenue, easily achievable, and that would be $200,000-300,000 a month of new fiat money coming into the Electroneum ecosystem. So yeah, we're really excited about next year, and some of the doors it's opened have been amazing as well. I can't tell you who they are yet, but they're good. And I think as we start to prove that model, that whole powered by Electroneum, is when we're going to start seeing, okay, maybe someone else goes, oh, actually, I'd quite like to access that massive market of the unbanked as well. So translation platforms or platforms that do anything that has the requirement for human input. So maybe programming of artificial intelligence algorithms that's often got human input, that kind of thing. This is going to be, loads of doors to open there.
Wow, amazing. So you say your mix is you have some TV and it's word of mouth social based upon
just in terms of getting users. So users into the platform. Biggest thing that brings users into the platform for us at the moment for Anytask has been influencers. And what's really interesting there as well is that one or two of them we've made payments to. But what's absolutely incredible is, you see the Kardashians and you see this sort of thing, and what it's done is it's turned our influencer model into this vastly expensive thing, actually. And you can talk to an influencer who's got 25,000 subscribers or 25,000 followers and be given these vast numbers. Oh yeah, we want $100,000 and we want $25,000 and $50,000, $10,000. The numbers are just incredible. And then we go over to Bangladesh and someone goes, yeah, I've got 25,000 followers, and we say, okay, well, can we offer you something? Can we make a little donation or something because you're going to talk about us? Oh, that would be nice. Yeah, $50. And so the access and the cost is absolutely ridiculously small, and that's because the West at the moment, call them the West, the global North, whatever you want to call them, the people with the money, the G20, they've got the money, and they've never seen that part of the world as interesting to them because they have no way to pay for anything. They have got some money in their pockets, but it's actual physical cash. They don't have a Visa card. They don't have any way to digitally buy services from the West, from the global north. But of course they do. They've got Electroneum. And as the corporates start to realize there's this massive new market for selling digital services. So if you imagine games, they fight really, really hard to try and get a little bit more market share, There's 1.8 billion people who can't buy access to that game because they don't have Apple Pay. They don't have a Google payment system. They don't have a credit card. They can't buy access to that game. Well, but they can. Just integrate Electroneum. Suddenly they've got a way to earn their way into a game or convert into Electroneum via people that are around them and get into that game. So there are tons and tons and tons of opportunities for corporates that we're going to start seeing open up over the next couple of years, I suspect.
Yeah, I think with what you're talking about, the gig economy is huge. It's only going to get bigger, and innately crypto and the gig economy and how global it is, it's all innate things to our space. And so even though you're seeing, maybe the Fiverrs of the world, it's like, hey, I got a designer out of Milwaukee and I'm in, Los Angeles, like maybe that works for you. But in our space, it's interesting, and it's something that we look at now is, you have to be posting in the middle of the night. You need a designer, you want to wake up in the morning and see like 2 or 3 different designs or something that you're trying to build, or a UX or UI designer that's going to build something or have something delivered overnight. And so I think you guys are positioned well. Like you said, even though there's, still a couple 100 million people in these kind of G20, maybe a little bit more, there are billions of people that are in this other side of the market where all of these companies now, especially with crypto, it's going to be so simple for us to go and hire someone from a different place. Right, you might not even need to speak the same language, right? Because of the translation.
No, that's the other thing Anytask does. We've built in it's only Google. We haven't written the translator, but we've integrated Google Translate into our messaging system, so that you can actually say, well, I want a logo, I want the US flag, I want it to do this, I want it to do that, and then you can the person at the other end receives it. If he's not too sure what it says because his English is not too great, he's an amazing designer, but his English is not too great. He just hits Google Translate, and you can. We've seen it. We've seen thousands of these people using Google Translate to message to and fro. And even though it may not be 100%, they get the idea, especially when they send it back and then there's an amendment and they just go, oh, actually, could you just flip that round or do something? It's been really great to watch some of the things that are being created. Funnily enough, one of the influencers that when you were scrolling through your list right at the beginning and you said, oh, here are some of the top influencers. One of those guys is Jonathan Marriott, who works for us. Yep. And if you go and have a look at his, I think it was his Twitter feed, maybe his Facebook page, but he got one of the Anytask guys to design the headers and his avatar thing, and it's got a spaceman on it. I think he paid $30 for it or something, and the guy's done an incredible job, and he's done it across his different social platforms. So, this is the type of thing that's available, and that whole concept of seeing who's online does literally mean you're going to go to bed. You want a YouTube. An intro video or an outro for YouTube things. You just find somebody that does that. Say, yeah, here's my word, here's my logo, this is the concept. I pick plan A or whatever. Sometimes they have them in their portfolio. Off you go. You wake up, it's done. You paid $15. It's so easy to outsource. Once you've done it the first time, you never go back.
No, very, very true. And it's not even sometimes with companies, it's people that might not understand how to do design, right? And if you have a resume that you need to be designed up or done, or a small website, or even like the Shopify economy, right? And like getting people into that. So so just kind of throwing something out there. So what if like you guys are going to be payment rails, and maybe it's not Fiverr, maybe it's one of those. What if they came to you and said, hey, we want to use Electroneum in our platform? Is that something you would entertain?
That's how I wanted it to work in the first place. And that funnily enough, now, I mean, Electroneum is I said to someone the other day, it's kind of, Anytask, it's a boulder rolling down the hill. We can't keep up with it. It's wildly successful, and people are talking about it. And the influence I'm talking about, sometimes we just see this. Sometimes our server load goes crazy, and we have to spin up a load more Docker containers to handle the influx of things. We think we're being attacked, and then we see the sign up rate going crazy. We see the app installs going crazy, and someone's just picked it up somewhere and run this sort of influencer thing, not because of us. It's because they've just created a task. They've gone off. They've earned some ETN. And here's the big thing for the reason it's taking off so much. Fiverr charged 20%. So 1 day a week, if you're working 5 days a week, 1 day a week, you're working for Fiverr. Whereas with our platform, we don't charge the sellers anything. So from their point of view, they've got nothing to lose. Why would they not list on Anytask as well? So this powers Electroneum. Just the more people that are coming on powers Electroneum, and we're just seeing this massive adoption rate, which is fantastic. So at some stage, one of those others will go, hang on, we're missing a trick, but they will still be charging a higher percentage. So I suspect Anytask will become a household name in terms of, you know Upwork, you know freelancer.com, you know Fiverr. You'll know Anytask. You know, a couple more years down track, it's going to be that sort of household name. So, and it's got a great name as well. I do like Anytask. You know, it's got a good ring to it. So I think it's going to be well positioned to be a market leader. But at the same time, we'd welcome anybody. Anybody comes along, we go, yes.
Right.
There's been a few games lately that have come along. Something Havoc, can't quite remember off the top of my head. Splinterlands. There's been these. There's been a couple of games integrating Electroneum into their ecosystem. We've got, I'm not too sure I'm allowed to say it actually, but I think we've got a...
You could break some news on here. It's all good.
Yeah, well, we've got, I won't say who it is then, but let's say we're going to be the 11th crypto listed on a thing that there's other people on there, like there's Virgin, there's Bitcoin, there's Ethereum, there's those kind of projects on there, and they've chosen Electroneum to be the next project that's on. I don't think we can announce this until maybe tomorrow, maybe the beginning of next week, but there's all these things going on where people are now seeing Anytask has opened their eyes and they've said, actually, do you know what? Electroneum have been silently getting on with just making something that works. And I think that if one thing that Anytask does is it's a showcase for how easy instant payments, absolutely critical to the ecosystem. We've got instant payments. It just does what you want it to do as a payment system. So yeah, there we go.
Well, no, congrats on the success of it. And I'm sure as you guys start kind of eating into share of some of those other projects, or you guys kind of build your niche internationally, then they're going to come sniffing around really quickly. So congrats on that.
Yeah.
John, we should probably go through some of these questions here. I'm trying to scroll through all these. There's, I think some of the simple ones are like, when Ledger, Richard, is a good one.
Good question. Well, ask the Ledger team. Nudge the Ledger team. I'm nudging Ledger team. If you ever watch this, I'm nudging you. Our code is sitting with the Ledger team, waiting for them to review it. They can't integrate it until they've reviewed it. Our tech guys have completely written. I think it's written in C or C++. It works on a very low level, so they have to. The Ledger team themselves have to review it because, of course, you could put something nasty in there. I can assure you we haven't, but they have to review every project before it goes on. And it was submitted absolutely ages ago. If you look at our social, you'll see when it was submitted. I'm not too sure if it was submitted last year. Might have even been. It was absolutely ages ago. I know the Ledger team are under it, so again, no, don't be rude to them. But COVID has made it very difficult for them as well. I think they're all out of their office and they're not perhaps quite used to working that way. So, but by all means, ask COVID. Don't ask COVID. Ask the Ledger team. We do nudge them, but we don't like to be rude, so we don't ask them very often. Perhaps once every 6 or 8 weeks, we go hello. So feel free to do it. It's certainly in their queue, and as soon as they do it, that'd be amazing. Great.
There's also one here. Will you be able to buy ETN in the app with Changelly?
That comes down. One thing we haven't talked about is we're right in the middle of our application. In the UK, all crypto asset businesses need to be registered with the FCA. That's the Financial Conduct Authority in the United Kingdom. They are overseeing crypto asset businesses for their KYC and AML, so know your customer, and anti-money laundering, which is important for any financial business or business within that kind of space. And crypto is starting to creep into that fintech umbrella, and we're right in the middle of that. So we don't know. We'd like to reach out to the FCA and ask them exactly what we can do, what we can't do. We work very hard not to fall under a thing called the Payment Services Directive, which we're not under, but we have to be careful not to be. So look, it's a bit of a legal question, that one. We want to do it. We might need to integrate a third party that's nothing to do with us that can handle that for us. But I will get it into the app at some point. I hope, subject to the FCA being okay with that. Very good.
Very good. We've got one here that's, and it's, what blockchain, or like, so blockchain, I did see a question about burning. Is there anything on the blockchain?
Yeah, well, first of all, we'll never do a token burn. And I know Stellar did a token burn, which was, as far as I was concerned, the end of the Stellar project. What an awful thing to do. The only reason to do a coin burn, the only reason, is to manipulate the market. It's a crime in the UK for me to do that. So if I go off and do that, I've almost certainly committed a crime. You make products that are brilliant, and that, Amazon, eBay, look at their equity prices. They're not based off anything other than the fact that those businesses deliver an awesome service. That's what we are. We're an Amazon, eBay. We are making something that's going to stand the test of time, and it's going to be enormous. We don't want to try and achieve short-term quick fix by criminality. So we won't be doing a coin burn. What was the next one other than the coin burn?
No, I'm just kind of going through it. There was a good comment. I forget. I think it might have been Ghost Particle earlier talking about. I think sometimes people forget, that just because it's a cryptocurrency, it's still a startup, right? And in essence, it's a startup that went public since day zero. And you're building in public, and you need to be transparent. As long as you're transparent about that, you're going to grow. But you're also finding adoption along the way. And so it's not, it's like, imagine if Tesla was public since day one, and they had the early V1 prototype of a Roadster that they didn't even build the body of. And then it's like battery, it's all over the place, but look at what they've been able to create now. And so I think sometimes people just kind of confuse the currency for the company. Right. And they kind of forget that, there's different, it's public blockchains, and then there's different companies that are being built on top of these. Yeah. And you're doing a little bit of both.
3 years old. I mean, we're 3 years old this month, actually, in terms of the blockchain being live. And we're 3 years old. 3 years old is not very old for a small business. But we've achieved so much, and we really, really have. I mean, I've been in business since I was a youth. Don't have much youth left, but I've been in business since I was a very young lad, and I know what generally gets achieved in a year or a couple of years. This has just smashed everything I've ever done. It's unbelievably cool what the team have made and what we're doing and where we're taking this. So I know that some people just want something fast. Give us something, give us something, give us something. And I'm sorry that I can't do some of the things that you want me to do. But just have some faith that we are delivering Electroneum to be something really, really special, really, really special. So I just remember the question that popped up on the screen. It was about blockchain for 2021. Yeah, well, look, we've been working on this Byzantine fault-tolerant blockchain model with Andre and Chris at my office. And these guys, Chris Harrison and Andre, are brilliant coders, brilliant blockchain engineers. And they have been working on something really cool, partly because we are getting into this space where people, governments around the world, are questioning what they want to be doing around things like privacy. So, we fought for Monero right way back when, what was it, 3 years ago, I guess was the actual fault, but we were using the Monero code long before there. But we took out most of what they do for privacy. Monero is the perfect coin for privacy. If you want to use privacy on a blockchain, you use Monero. It's brilliant. It's genius. The cryptographers that wrote that, really are fantastically clever people. So, but what we did is we used part of that, which is stealth addresses, because we didn't want people, when they do an app-to-app transfer, what we didn't want is the street vendor to be able to look in your wallet. You've been working for Anytask. They can look in your wallet and go, oh, you've got $400 worth of something. That's interesting. I know where you live. Suddenly it becomes something a little bit sinister if you can just look into someone's wallet. When you walk into a store with your debit card and you use that debit card, that store owner cannot look in and see what you have in your bank account. And they also can't look to see, oh, you shopped at Mrs. Miggins' pie shop, or perhaps something that could, Imagine you were in Saudi Arabia and you'd gone to some sort of homosexual website and paid for something, right? Bam, you could literally be endangering your very life by your transaction history. So it would probably be a bad thing to have completely open ledger, if, in my opinion, if you can make it private. So we, of course, made ours private deliberately, but governments around the world are now going, well, privacy coins are banned. But they're not really thinking very widely, like, well, hold on a minute, you're not banning bank accounts for privacy, but that's because they can go to the bank accounts and they can say, well, who's behind that? What has the person done? It's not publicly available, but it's available to authority. So that's also something that we'll be looking into in 2021. It won't make any difference to the end user. Their privacy will be assured. But if the authorities want to look at things, we won't be the coin for drug dealers. We won't be the coin for money launderers. Those coins are already out there. We will be much more in the regulated space, and we will be quite happy to have court order comes in. Yep, there you go. That's what it was. Because the people that we're dealing with, they just want to get on with earning a few extra dollars. They want to earn some more value and change their lives around. And we want to make the crypto space work, en masse for the huge audience. So you'll see all sorts of things coming next year. It's going to be an exciting year in blockchain, as well as Anytask, as well as Electroneum's integration with lots of other things.
Yeah, you definitely have a lot going on over there, which is very exciting. So you guys have Anytask that you're building. I've seen some comments in the chat. I think there was one about, what about letting people buy something with their ETN, like building in a marketplace or something like that for local items? Are you guys, is there a way for people to, are there grants? Can people come to you and say, hey, I want to build this in Bangladesh for this community, and it's going to be in this language. I need, $50,000. Can people come to you guys and start building on top of what you're doing?
Well, there isn't. Those sorts of grants are not available at the moment. That doesn't mean that we would preclude that from ever happening. I quite like the idea of it. You need so much oversight, because we've seen it with Dash. Dash had a great concept where, this sort of, third or whatever it was, 20% of it went to the project for those type of grants. But we also saw massive abuse in that grant process, where people disappeared off and did all sorts of things. And once again, look, Dash is a project I admire and I like. So I'm not speaking disparagingly about the project. I'm just saying, unfortunately, you need so much trust in there and so much oversight in there. We haven't got the room for it yet. But I like the concept of it. I mean, one of the things that I thought you were going to touch on then was can people buy things on Anytask with ETN? Now, at the moment, it's so weird, isn't it? It is so weird that we're an ETN-powered freelance platform, and we only take fiat at the front door. We don't take our own Electroneum, which is just so weird. And I'm here telling you that this is why cryptocurrency is still struggling to take off, because the law is such an ass, if you'll excuse the terminology. We, at the moment, are perfectly legal. We take fiat money, it comes in the system, and by the magic in this, and it goes over here and it does all this, where our banking partners are happy and everybody's happy, and it spits out as ETN and everything's fine. If we accept ETN and we pay out ETN, then suddenly we're under this payment services directive. Whoop, you're doing something really bad, and that could be really bad. We're like, oh my gosh, okay. So the lawyers don't like it, but then they come up and say, but don't worry, if it's held in that person's wallet and that person transfers it directly to the seller, much harder for us to code. But if it's held in with a sort of a lock, and it sits there and then it transfers directly and you're not part of it, no payment services directive, everything works. To the user, it's transparent. They don't notice the difference. It's all these crazy things of the law, because nothing changes. The exact same thing happens. It just doesn't sit with us for 10 minutes. And yet that's the law. The law is making it very difficult for crypto projects. So, I'm hoping that as we move into 2021, 2022, and the authorities and the regulators actually start to understand what's going on, and bear in mind, they're overworked and probably underpaid, and certainly they are learning. So they just need to be educated about crypto and the wonders of crypto and what it can do for the world. And then I think we'll see great things happen in this space. So you will see ETN payments at the front end of Anytask as well. We're coding it, but it's a much bigger job than you'd expect.
Yeah, you're probably protecting a lot of people. And John, it kind of reminds me of last night when you were on that podcast talking about taxes, right? And all of these different disparate countries. And you're probably protecting a lot of people from some undue regulation that potentially they're opening themselves to, and maybe they don't understand yet. And so by taking the baby steps to get there, it's probably a better route to take in the future, because you don't want to put someone into a position that they can't climb out of, and now you've kind of soured the experience, I guess.
Yeah, I think there's also there's a big scrutiny on crypto projects, and as such, we're in a spotlight where other people aren't. So, for instance, I won't name and shame them, because I don't, that's not how I would consider an ethical way to run. But there is a big project, a large freelance platform that I said, well, if they're doing it, why can't we do it? And I won't say exactly what it is, but if they're doing it, why can't we do it? It doesn't make any sense. I want to be able to do that. And our lawyers went and looked at them, looked at their terms and conditions, looked at the submissions to Companies House and everything else, and came back and went, they've been breaking the law since the 1st of January 2018, and there is absolutely no doubt that they would be shut down where they looked at. And I went, what? And he said, yeah. Their lawyers need to be on it straight away. They won't even be aware of it, because the law has changed in the background. The regulators couldn't give a monkeys, because then the spotlight's not on them. But of course, the spotlight couldn't be brighter than on us. We're in a crypto place. The authorities are not particularly big fans of crypto anyway, I think. And as such, everything we do, the minutiae of everything we do is just scrutinized to within an inch of its life. Which is not a bad thing at the beginning. Ultimately, we've got to get this right for the public, and we've got to make sure the public are safe. We've got to make sure the same safeguards exist from there as it does everywhere else in financial services. So it's just a learning curve for everybody at the moment, I think.
For sure.
I've got a good one here, because speaking of countries that don't get crypto taxes, let's talk about the United States. Is it possible for Electroneum to launch a branch in the United States? I would love to become part of the project. So they're asking, how can people get involved in Electroneum?
Okay, well, in terms of our acceptance in the United States, so the United States, it's got a slightly different way. You guys will be very familiar with this. Slightly different way of looking at projects than where we are in the United Kingdom, or indeed Europe and lots of other places in the world. We would see ourselves perhaps as a payment token rather than a utility token or a security token. In the United States, you're a utility token or you're a security token. That's your lot. Now, we argue very strongly that we are a utility token. There's no shadow of a doubt that our consumptive use is actually greater than Ethereum's consumptive use in comparison to everyday's trading. So if you look at how much we get traded on an exchange and how much we get used consumptively, and then you look at how much daily trading there is speculative use on Ethereum, and how much and how much consumptive use there is, actually we get consumed and utilized more than Ethereum as a percentage, not in dollar terms. So, and Ethereum has kind of been given your ICO was a security event as far as we're concerned by the SEC, but now we don't see you as a security. So we believe strongly that we are a utility. We are working with people to try and achieve something that states that a little bit more legally than my opinion, and we'll move forwards. I think all the time we're showing things like Anytask where it is just so obviously a consumptive use of cryptocurrency. It is utility that makes Electroneum, and it's one of the strongest reasons why I'm very, 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 very anti this whole pump it, speculative asset type of thing, is because I want to get back into the States where the buyers of freelance services are certainly they're the largest number of buyers of freelance services in the world. So that's where we're advertising on TV, because we take fiat. But once we start taking Electroneum, I'd like people in the United States to be able to buy some Electroneum from exchanges and things. At that stage, once we're back in the door, which I hope to happen in 2021, if the wind is in the right direction, then would we consider opening an office over there? Yes, quite possibly. So watch this space. Certainly, the United States is on our radar simply because it's a synergistic marketplace for Anytask and for Electroneum to be used as a utility.
Good to know. I'm going to assume you can't answer this next one, but I do want to hear your perspective on it. Will ETN be accepted by PayPal in 2021 as they have announced crypto for payments to their merchants? So assuming you can't answer ETN unless you really want to on PayPal, what are your thoughts on PayPal getting into crypto?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's great for the market, isn't it? The more that happens, the more people start to embrace crypto, the more people that start to adopt crypto, the better it is for everything. And part of that, of course, is, once again, people see this as, certain people are into Bitcoin, the price of Bitcoin's gone up. But what you've also got to remember, forgetting about the price of Bitcoin going up, let's think about they've adopted it for a reason as well. It's not just about buying something speculatively. Bitcoin is really useful for transferring value around the world, as is Electroneum. The whole point of cryptocurrencies is that it's this easy peer-to-peer exchange of value. That's the critical part. So as people adopt them, if they're adopting them purely from a speculative point of view, and of course, I think probably Bitcoin is more of a speculative asset than anything, actually. I think that these people that are getting into it are buying it on an assumption it's going to go up in price. But I think there's an awful lot of tokens that you buy because you want to make use of them, and they also happen to go up and down in price. So I don't know what tokens PayPal is listing, and certainly that legislation that I was talking about a moment ago would need to be confirmed, ironed out, whatever we want to call it. We'd need to have that in place before we could even discuss it, because PayPal is a United States entity. So we would obviously love to be one of them. You're certainly going to see some big projects adopt Electroneum, because we're talking to some. I haven't got a name that I can give you right now, I'm afraid. It's been that way for a little while, but we will get there. I'm absolutely positive. And remember one thing, this is really, really important. We can advertise Anytask with powered by Electroneum or whatever it's going to say. It might not say powered by, even though I have my fantastic Harley Davidson revving noise on the end of the ad. Intel Inside, ding, 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 ding. I was it's a bit insipid. I want something a bit more. So it said powered by Electroneum. It goes, I'm like, yeah, that's what I want. So but now the lawyers came along and jabbed me with a stick. I'm like, I'm not sure we can say powered by. Maybe we can say utilizing. I'm like, okay, I'll go with that. But you can't say utilizing Electroneum. Just doesn't work, does it? So there we go. But when we get that advert running onto TV, remember that the guys from Gemini, the guys from Coinbase, the guys from Bittrex, they're going to be seeing the Electroneum brand on the TV. We're going to be pushing with from the other end to say, look, we want to be part of listing on you so that people can buy ETN and use it as a utility to buy tasks for a discount, because that's how it works. If you use ETN, you get a discount on buying. So there's a really good utility reason to purchase ETN off an exchange and use it within this ecosystem. Probably more reason, in fact, than virtually every other token. So I have very, very high hopes for 2021 indeed.
There's actually quite a few questions. I mean, I'll just put one up here about the ads. And I'm curious a little bit more about them as well. So are they're for ETN or they're for Anytask?
Well, all the Anytask ads. I mean, we did a whole load. We spent a couple of $100,000 really quite quickly for nothing, and that was frustrating. We did loads and loads and loads of tests, loads of them, and we tested banners and we tested digital ads on Google and we tested YouTube and we tested this, tested that, and it was really frustrating that. That for just the Electroneum project, it didn't drive in any new business development. It didn't drive anything. So we don't want to do that. But we did say Anytask ads. We run Anytask ads already. We're driving people in. We've taken on a new agency actually to handle it because we're really busy internally. So we've taken on a new agency to run digital ads. But we've also taken on a United States media buyer who I haven't quite signed a contract with actually yet. But they need the funds in their account by the 14th of December. So that they can get buying the media in the United States on the TV from hopefully from the 28th of December, subject to us having this signed off ad ready to go. We've got 2 in production. So you'll see that, and the Anytask ads all feature Electroneum. So you've got both brands going onto United States TV then onto the United Kingdom TV, then on some TV channels around the rest of the world, depending on how TV is consumed in those places.
I'm just thinking of the timing because we worked at big agencies before. That's not a Super Bowl ad, is it?
No, no.
Okay.
So, but funny enough, I mean, and
it should be. You should go for it, man.
Yeah, right.
But again, what you have to do though first is you have to split test everything. I mean, I've always worked scientifically in my ads, and that's why I've said it was real frustration to see all that funding spent on loads and loads and loads of tests. And what you do when you do advertising is you do loads and loads and loads of tests, and you get a few green ticks and a lot of red crosses. All right, and then you focus in on the green ticks. And then you expand out and you use the similar things, and then you get another load of red crosses and a few green ticks that are even better. And that's how advertising has always worked for me. And actually in the world of crypto, you can easily spend a load of money. And you've seen this with other projects you've just spent, and it's just gone, and then it's gone. And the project's dead. And so what we didn't want to do is just keep blasting money into those red crosses when we knew Anytask carries the Electroneum brand more powerfully and harder, whilst returning fiat transactions into the system that result in ETN purchase. I mean, it's just literally the most beautiful thing in crypto. So you'll be seeing TV ads is the answer for both Electroneum and for Anytask combined into one.
But mass media, I mean, like we're talking major networks.
Yeah. It's a nationwide campaign across major networks, all the channels that you'll have heard of, and they start off small. The guys we're working with are very clever. They're very scientific. I like them. Out of all the people, they analyze obviously traffic that comes through, and they analyze everything, and they work out which ones are driving the most traffic. Then they'll take the media spend from the ones that are producing less, fire it into the channels that are producing better, experimenting with timing, experimenting with multiple exposure, yada yada, all the usual thing that you'd expect. So that all goes live. Starts out relatively small. Going to have at least 3 months of testing with those guys. At that point, they will come back to, well, they'll be coming back to us every week. But at the end of 3 months, we will say, right, we've got a really good understanding of what drives the most traffic. Now let's ramp that up, because that's really what you want as an advertiser. You want to do your testing for hundreds of thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars before you spend your millions of dollars. And your millions of dollars of spend has to be much, much cleverly spent than just, you've got to get it right.
Richard, I'm curious, is the spot focused more on the freelancer, the person that's being hired, or is it more focused on the brands that are hiring?
Yeah, it's all about selling the tasks. Originally, funnily enough, a lot of the platforms have found that they have to spend quite a lot to get the freelancers to come across to the platform. They have to go after those people. The advertising is generally cheaper because you can advertise, around the world where the advertising is cheaper anyway, because again, we've got that buying power. But we found that we haven't had to spend that money. It's been tiny amounts spent on getting the sellers on. The sellers are just coming in their droves because we're not charging them a fee, and because they're excited about being on the platform. We will see more and more of those coming on as we start to see TV ads and buyer numbers ramp up. I think you're going to start to see tens of thousands more of those people come on who are paid with ETN. So that's excellent for the ETN project. So there's such a symbiosis between Anytask and Electroneum now that it makes sense to combine them up anyway. And I really liked the idea of other people having that almost intel inside, powered by Electroneum. It just tells you, oh yeah, that's somewhere that's powered by Electroneum.
Very cool.
I want to add, instead of a question here, I think this will get everyone excited. So ETN is now up 32.71% over the last 24 hours. And if you look at the hourly candles, there are 19 green hourly candles over the last 24 hours. So I think you're giving the right answers. Very good.
Well, okay, that's a good thing. I think, look, I'm not allowed to talk about price, and my lawyers will beat me as soon as I do. But I genuinely feel that we're undervalued as a project. Don't please take that as speculative advice. I'm not giving anybody speculative advice. But what I do know is that I look at the world of crypto quite a lot, and I see it's frustrating for me. I see a lot of the top 100 market cap companies have got nothing. They might have they might have a good idea. Some of those are debatable, but they've got a little bit of tech. They've got a little bit of a protocol. They don't even have their own blockchain. They're an ERC20 token. It took them 2 afternoons to come up with the white paper and thing, and they've got more market capitalization than we have. So look, it is a frustration for me, but at the same time, I can't make it a focal point of what we spend money on, the speculative side of it. All I can do is tell you that we work our absolute backsides off to make the Electroneum ecosystem work. The amount of effort that goes into the biz dev side of things is enormous. We will be partnering up with larger and larger and larger organizations as this crypto space starts to be more accepted. And we're now seeing it, and it's so heartening to see the Bitcoin boom. Funnily enough, you're still seeing it at the moment. You're still seeing we've got Sky News in the UK. They wrote it was a headline about Bitcoin's massive price, but they still wrote it in a negative way, which is, it's nearly reached its all-time high, from which it crashed devastatingly last time. You're like, well, you're just writing a negative headline about something that's really positive.
And I think that's a good thing for the market, is there's still people that are trying to naysay, even though, PayPal bought up 70% of the supply last month. MicroStrategy put $500 million into it. Grayscale can't even keep enough Bitcoin on the balance sheet because they're getting bought up so quickly. It's, and everyone can naysay as long as they want, because people are afraid, and it's disrupting, potentially their way of making money and potentially their livelihood. But what they should be doing is jumping on board full steam ahead. So, if you, as a CEO, you get bashed for being bullish on your company, I mean, you would be the only CEO on the planet that wouldn't be bullish on your own company. So I think that's defendable in the court. So it's all good. But yeah, no price predictions though.
No price predictions, but bullish I am. Yeah, certainly we are. Cool. I heard a fantastic story the other day about the guy who put 5%. It took him a long time to be convinced. But some point in the past, and I'm sure mathematically you could probably figure this out, but he put 5% of his portfolio. Someone convinced him, put 5% of your portfolio into Bitcoin. Just what you're going to do if you lose 5%, you can weather it. Please do it. So off he went and put 5% in. And the other day he just went back and said, my portfolio officially reversed today, and 95% of my portfolio is in Bitcoin, and I haven't bought one single extra Satoshi. It's just that the equities have reduced to 5%. And Bitcoin has increased to 95%. Right. I mean, what a story. That's just unbelievable. Yeah,
it's crazy. Cool. Well, Richard, this has been fun. Really appreciate you coming on. It was fun to learn about Electroneum and Anytask and what you guys are working on. I think you guys are doing a great job over there. So keep working hard, and we'll be watching.
It's very, very kind of you. It's been an absolute pleasure to chat to you. Even if I do waffle on, I do apologize.
It's all right. I steamroll all the time. John knows, so it's all good. Cool, man. Thank you so much. And everyone in the chat, thank you for being as civil as you possibly could in there. Thank you guys for the questions. And make sure we'll post the link one more time. Make sure you go in there and have your chance at winning that $50. So Richard, John, as always, thank you.